Picture an aircraft that never fired a shot in anger, yet played a pivotal role in preparing pilots for the chaos of World War II. The Hanriot H-232 was just that, a twin-engine trainer that taught French airmen the skills needed to master complex assault bombers. Sleek and modern for its time, it was like handing a student driver the keys to a finely tuned racing car to learn the ropes. Thrilling, but with a steep learning curve. Unless you're an aviation buff poring over dusty archives, this aircraft might not ring a bell, overshadowed by the flashier fighters and bombers of the era. Its story, though, is one of quiet innovation. Born in a France racing against time to bolster its air force. To understand the H-232, let's travel back to the 1930s, when Europe's skies were darkening with the threat of war. The 1930s were a period of unease in Europe. France, still recovering from the scars of World War I, watched with growing alarm as Germany rearmed across the border. By 1938, the French Air Force, or Armée de l'Air, had 5,000 aircraft, but only 1,375 were considered frontline machines, and many were outdated. The Chief of Staff admitted that, in a conflict, only 580 could be deployed effectively. This dire situation spurred France into action, launching the 5th program to produce 2,500 modern combat aircraft by 1940. New planes, however, meant little without pilots trained to fly them, and France's training infrastructure was stretched thin, struggling to keep pace with the demands of modern aerial warfare. In 1936, the French Ministry of Air issued a call for a new two-seater trainer under the T2 program. This initiative aimed to create an aircraft that could prepare pilots for the complexities of twin-engine assault bombers, like the Breguet 693, which demanded precision and skill for low-level attack missions. The T2 program was a direct response to intelligence reports from the Spanish Civil War, where modern aircraft demonstrated the need for advanced multi-EMR training. France needed a trainer that could mimic the handling of operational bombers, ensuring pilots were ready for the real thing when the time came. Enter Hanriot, a French aircraft manufacturer with a storied history stretching back to World War I. Based in Arcueil near Paris, Hanriot had built a reputation for reliable designs, from early monoplanes to trainers. The task of designing the new trainer fell to Jean Montlore, Hanriot's chief designer, a man with a passion for pushing aviation boundaries. Montlore envisioned a twin-engine aircraft that could bridge the gap between basic trainers and combat-ready bombers. Drawing on the earlier H-220, a fighter bomber concept, he crafted a lighter, simpler design tailored for training. The result was the H-230 series, which would evolve into the H-232 we know today. The first prototype, the H-230.01, took to the skies on July 22, 1937, from Hanriot's factory in Bourges, France, powered by two Simpson 6AF00 engines, each producing 172 horsepower. It featured a fixed landing gear and a single fin and rudder tail. Initial flights showed promise, but testers noted stability issues, particularly during maneuvers, simulating engine failure. Montlore and his team faced the daunting task of refining the design under tight deadlines. Convincing the Air Ministry to fund further development was no small feat, likely requiring more than a few polished presentations and perhaps a charming scale model to win their approval. By May 1938, the H-231 prototype emerged, equipped with more powerful Simpson 6AF02 engines, each delivering 230 horsepower. The wings were redesigned with increased dihedral across their span, improving stability and addressing the earlier model's quirky wingtip design. These changes made the aircraft more suitable for training, but the French Air Force demanded further refinements to align with the needs of its assault bomber squadrons, which were preparing for a potential conflict. The H-232 variant marked a significant step forward. The pre-series H-232.01, flown in August 1938, introduced retractable landing gear, a feature rare for trainers of the time, but essential for preparing pilots for operational aircraft. Powered by two Renault 6 Q0203 engines, each generating 220 horsepower, it featured counter-rotating propellers to reduce torque effects, making it easier to handle. Testing took place at the Centre d'Essai du Matériel Aérien in Villacoublay, France, from October 1938 to May 1939, where pilots and engineers fine-tuned its performance. In December 1939, the H-232 received a major upgrade with a twin-fin and rudder tail assembly, enhancing stability during critical training scenarios like engine-out exercises. This version, redesignated H-232/2.01, became the production standard. The twin-tail design was a practical solution, ensuring the aircraft could safely mimic the challenges pilots would face in combat aircraft. The Air Ministry, impressed by the improvements, placed an initial order for 40 aircraft, later expanded to 57 as the outbreak of World War II in September 1939 heightened the urgency for trained pilots. The nationalization of France's aviation industry in 1937 added complexity to the H-232's development. Hanriot was merged into the Société Nationale de Construction Aéronautique du Centre, or SNCAC, based in Bourges. This restructuring aimed to streamline production, but introduced bureaucratic hurdles. And engineers at SNCAC had to navigate red tape while ensuring the aircraft met the Air Force's exacting standards. Despite these challenges, the Bourges factory geared up to produce the H-232, with assembly lines working overtime to meet the growing demand as war loomed. The H-232's production faced significant obstacles due to France's precarious situation. By June 1940, when France fell to German forces, only 35 aircraft had been delivered. The rapid advance of the enemy disrupted manufacturing, and many components were left incomplete at the Bourges facility. The aircraft's development was a race against time, reflecting France's desperate efforts to prepare for a conflict it was ill-equipped to face. Yet, the H-232's story is one of resilience, as its designers and builders pushed forward despite the mounting chaos. The Hanriot H-232 was a study in practical design, blending modern features with the constraints of its era. Its fuselage, a mix of metal and wood, was lightweight yet sturdy, a necessity given France's limited access to strategic materials. The aircraft stretched 8.55 meters, 28 feet 1 inch in length, with a wingspan of 12.76 meters, 41 feet 10 inches, and a height of 3.47 meters, 11 feet 5 inches. Its wing area spanned 21.2 square meters, 228 square feet, providing sufficient lift for its training role. Powering the H-232 were two Renault 6Q0203 engines, air-cooled 6-cylinder inline units, each delivering 220 horsepower. The left engine, 6Q02, drove a left-hand rotating propeller, while the right, 6Q03, powered a right-hand rotating one. This counter-rotating setup minimized torque, making the aircraft more forgiving for student pilots. The two-bladed Ratier electric variable pitch propellers allowed trainees to practice adjusting blade angles, a skill critical for operational bombers. Managing those propellers must have felt like juggling while flying. Hope the pilots had steady hands. The cockpit accommodated two crew members in a tandem arrangement, with the student pilot in front and the instructor in the rear, elevated slightly for better visibility. The canopy featured multiple sections, with the front sliding backward and the rear opening sideways for easy access. The setup was practical, though instructors likely had to raise their voices over the engine roar to correct a student's misstep. Equipped with radio communication and basic navigation instruments, the cockpit mirrored the systems found in combat aircraft, preparing pilots for real-world operations. The H-232's retractable landing gear was a standout feature, teaching pilots the critical procedure of raising and lowering gear, best practiced in training rather than under combat pressure. The main gear retracted inward into the wings, while the tailwheel remained fixed, a design that echoed the Breguet 693. This feature set the H-232 apart from simpler trainers, like the de Havilland Tiger Moth, which used fixed gear more suited for basic flight instruction. EAS performance metrics underscored the H-232's suitability for advanced training. It reached a maximum speed of 335 kilometers per hour, 208 miles per hour at 1,000 meters, 3,300 feet. Its cruising speed was around 312 kilometers per hour, 194 miles per hour, with a range of 1,200 kilometers, 745 miles, and a service ceiling of 7,500 meters, 24,600 feet. These capabilities allowed for extended training missions, from navigation to formation flying. Compared to contemporaries, the H-232 was advanced. The North American T-6 Texan, a single-engine trainer used by Allied forces, was excellent for intermediate training, but lacked the twin-engine complexity of the H-232. The Tiger Moth, a biplane, was ideal for beginners, but couldn't replicate the handling of operational bombers. The H-232's design bridged this gap, though its wooden components required careful maintenance in damp conditions, a challenge for any ground crew hoping to avoid a splintery surprise during inspections. The aircraft's hybrid construction reflected the era's resource constraints. The metal framework provided strength, while wooden sections kept weight down, a compromise driven by France's limited access to aluminum. This design choice made the H-232 economical to produce, but demanded meticulous upkeep, especially in the humid airfields of northern France. Its twin-fin tail, a late addition, ensured stability during demanding maneuvers, making it a reliable platform for teaching pilots the nuances of multi-engine flight. Deliveries of the H-232 began in February 1940, with aircraft assigned to the Groups de Bombardement d'Assaut, specifically GBA-151, GBA-251, GBA-154, GBA-254, and GBA-235, based at airfields like Vignon-sur-Verdon in southern France. These units focused on training pilots for the Breguet 693, a twin-engine assault bomber designed for low-level attacks. The H-232's role was to simulate the handling of these bombers, teaching pilots to manage takeoffs, landings, and emergency scenarios. Training missions were rigorous, involving navigation exercises, formation flying, and simulated engine failures. The H-232's responsive controls and stable handling made it ideal for these tasks, though coordinating two engines was a challenge for novices. One can imagine a student pilot fumbling the throttle controls, prompting a stern lecture from the instructor in the back, likely delivered with a mix of patience and exasperation. The aircraft's design allowed instructors to guide students through complex procedures, ensuring they were ready for operational service. The H-232 service was cut short by the German invasion in May 1940. As enemy forces advanced, airfields faced constant threat, forcing training units to relocate. By June 1940, when France surrendered, only 35 H-232s had been delivered. The rapid collapse disrupted training operations, leaving many aircraft grounded or captured. One poignant story comes from GBA-151 at Vignon-sur-Verdon, where a young pilot, Lieutenant Pierre Dubois, completed his final training flight on the H-232 just days before the armistice, only to see his squadron disbanded as France fell. German forces captured 22 H-232s after the surrender. Finding little use for them, they sold 3 to Finland in July 1941 to support Finland's air force during the continuation war against the Soviet Union. These aircraft, serial numbers HT-191, HT-192, and HT-193, were ferried from Brandenburg-Brest, Germany, to Finland. Tragically, HT-192 crashed during takeoff in Germany when the pilot, unfamiliar with the Ratier propeller, failed to feather it correctly, resulting in the loss of mechanic Aro Lepa. The incident underscored the challenges of adapting to foreign aircraft. Perhaps the pilot wished for a simpler machine that day. The 2 surviving aircraft, HT-191 and HT-193, reached Finland on July 24, 1941, flown by Finnish pilots. Assigned to advanced training, they logged over 460 flying hours, operating in Finland's harsh northern climate. The rugged terrain and icy runways posed constant challenges, with several accidents during taxiing and landing. One Finnish instructor, Captain Aino Virtanen, noted the H-232's responsive controls, but lamented its tendency to skid on icy surfaces, requiring pilots to stay sharp to avoid a snowy mishap. In 1945, HT-193 suffered a serious accident during a landing attempt after an engine failure. The pilot, attempting to keep the aircraft on the runway, shut down the remaining engine too late, resulting in a crash. Despite such incidents, the H-232s served until January 2, 1950, when the last was retired. In 1944, Finland replaced the swastika roundels on these aircraft with a new blue and white design, reflecting a shift in national markings as the war evolved. In France, the Vichy government retained a small air force, and some H-232s continued training missions until spare parts dwindled. After the German occupation of Vichy France in November 1942, known as Case Anton, surviving aircraft were transferred to Italy, but saw no further use. The Germans also ordered the completion of several unfinished H-232s, which were used at the Istres Flight School before being scrapped in 1942. The aircraft's brief but varied service life reflects the chaotic realities of World War II. The Hanriot H-232's legacy is one of understated contribution. It never saw combat, yet it was instrumental in preparing pilots for the challenges of World War II. Its advanced features, like retractable landing gear and counter-rotating propellers, made it a forward-thinking trainer, reflecting France's ambition to modernize its air force. The rapid fall of France limited its impact, and its role as a trainer meant it never achieved the fame of combat aircraft, like the De Wuyten D-520 or Moran Saulnier 406. No H-232 survives today, but its story lives on in historical records and model kits, like those produced by Azure, which allow enthusiasts to recreate its sleek design. Its obscurity is understandable given its non-combat role, but for the pilots who trained on it, the H-232 was a vital stepping stone. If only it had a more memorable name, it might have carved a bigger niche in aviation history. Hopefully, this journey through its story highlights the quiet but essential role the Hanriot H-232 played in World War II aviation.